Sometimes cheap and expensive items are the same thing with the only difference being the brand name. What are some examples of this? You guys should see the stuff we deal with in the medical field. I wanted to get a mesh metal glove to protect myself when using a saw during autopsies. Our medical supplier, Fisher Scientific, sold the hospital a medical grade chainmail glove for $300. They forgot to take the Bass Pro Shops tag off. It was a $12 glove for cleaning fish. Their name should have been a giveaway, Fisher Scientific. Years ago I was on a similar thread and found that melamine sponges are the same thing as Mr. Clean magic erasers. So I hopped on AliExpress and bought 300 of them for a few bucks at 3 AM. I totally forgot that I'd done it until they showed up 6 weeks later. My wife was really confused. They do work great though, and now we'll never run out. That's funny. I still have at least half of box of those 300 count generic magic erasers I bought a few years ago. But while they do the job, the ones I bought don't last nearly as long as the Mr. Clean brand. They're still both melamine foam. Aquarium nerds will know this one. Silicone. Aquariums are usually held together with silicone. And silicone is just 100% silicone, so generally predictable product no matter who makes it. Except, many brands for kitchen and bathroom sealing have added chemicals to keep mildew from growing on the cured silicone. This is a big no-no for aquariums. Basically poison that would kill your aquarium pets. So you gotta read the ingredients and information carefully to make sure it's not anti-mildew or anything dubious added. Or, you can pay double or triple for a pack of silicone with a big aquarium brand stamp. I used to work in a hardware store and I was told that DAP makes both the cheap store brand silicone cork and the expensive DAP branded stuff. For the equivalent product, i.e. kitchen bath cork, it was the same exact formula, but like you say, there are differences amongst the types of silicone, so don't just buy the cheapest product. Saw it on YouTube. They showed a part of a mini cooper that costs €350+. The exact same part was sold by Peugeot for only €70. Bosch is a great example of this. Many parts on German cars are made by Bosch, then stamped with a BMW or Mercedes logo and resold for twice the price. Same with a number of other German parts manufacturers. Always look up the OEM part manufacturer for whatever part you need, because it's literally the exact same thing, just cheaper because you're cutting out the middleman. ZZZ Quill is at least a 200% markup from Benadryl. The only active ingredient in ZZZ Quill is 25 mg of diphenhydramine, whereas Benadryl is also 25 mg of diphenhydramine. Or you can just buy the generic brand of 25 mg diphenhydramine and pay even less than for the pink Benadryl package. Kirkland brand, Costco brand, 1 egg, Bayer 81 mg aspirin, $24.99 for 365 tablets. Kirkland 81 mg equivalent, $4.99 for 365 tablets. Same active ingredient, big price difference. I used to work food packaging for Kroger. Roasted peanuts, dry oatmeal flavored or unflavored, cereal, chips. When we changed from store brand to branded item, we would stop the line and change the box and the package. The food is the exact same. Quick question. Is there a difference between cheap and expensive brands of bleach and rubbing alcohol? Yes, I'm aware of the recent news. No, this has nothing to do with that. I'm really just curious. Though some are made from isopropyl alcohol and some from ethanol. But in any case, as long as you're comparing the same type, brand doesn't matter. I was in a shop looking at laptop bags and there were two brands right next to each other that were exactly the same. Same dimensions, color, materials, padding, everything. Except one was almost twice the price than the other. They need to change up their shelving strategy. I worked in a frozen waffle pancake factory once, and the only difference between the name brand and off-brand frozen waffles and pancakes was a little metal arm flipping back and forth to ensure every other waffle pancake of the same bakery freezer line made it to the name brand packaging line or off-brand packaging line. Well, they're not identical then. One side's pancakes are nice and even, whereas the other side's pancakes are very odd. I used to work for manufacturing machinery company. You'll be surprised how many major food and pet food producers make supermarket owned brands. Yep, worked as a cleaner for a major UK bread brand when I was a kid. Loaves went down 3 different conveyors into our slicers, each conveyor ending in a different brand's packaging. One our own, and the other 2 being budget brands. Same bread, same recipe, baked on the same day in the same oven, priced differently depending on packaging. I don't know exact brands, but I would say anything identified as for men versus for women. I'm a female and buy men's deodorant and razors. They're both cheaper and the same exact product, just black versus pink most of the time. Conversely, when I was buying an electric toothbrush, the exact same model in pink was $10 cheaper than the blue one. Same with my kettle actually, the pink was $5 cheaper than the blue. So I've got quite a nice pink collection coming on. Champion does this so much. They have like cheap Champion and the more pricey one. Champion literally used to be crap and you'd get made fun of for wearing it, and now it's all hyped up, but you can still find a Champion shirt for less than $10. I have 3. I swear kids that wore New Balance shoes used to get the pee taken out of them as well. A lot of food on Aldi is, at least here, overproduction from name brands which is labeled differently, and one of the cheaper beer sorts here is entirely from overproduction, which has the fun effect that you will always get a Pils type beer, but depending where you brought it, it is very different. It's not overproduction. US Aldi, and similar Aldi associated company Trader Joe's, has their own label manufacture agreements with multiple suppliers. So they aren't taking excess, they actually have specific Aldi runs of products that are then packaged under their name rather than the manufacturer name. Source: GF is a manufacturer supplier for Aldi. I bought the Family Dollar coffee the other day. The aroma seal said Folgers and it had Folgers imprinted on the side. Folgers is well known, but holy crap, it's some of the worst coffee I've ever tasted. There's a reason it's cheap. Retired truck driver here. I often picked up cans of soup for various big retailers. I'll be picking up generic and name brand at the same MFG plant. Same soup, same cans, just a different label wrapped around them. Brands like Campbell's will produce generic soup right alongside their own brand. The proportions will be a bit different, but the same plant will produce the same soup for 3 or 4 different off-brands as well as their own. At least Campbell's changes up their formula a bit. Meat packers don't. A meat packer will produce their own brand, plus 1 or 2 off-brands, but it's exactly the same meat, from the same plant, processed exactly the same way, no variation whatsoever. The only difference coming from a meat packing plant is the shipping and handling instructions. Some brands insist the meat not be frozen, others want it frozen solid as a rock. But the worst offenders is the organic industry. The definition of organic in the US allows for stuff that is definitely not anyone's idea of organic. Organic produce will tend to be smaller than its non-organic counterpart, and often with natural blemishes you normally don't see on regular produce. If it looks exactly like the non-organic counterpart, it's probably not really organic at all. Big telltale is if it's the same size. You don't dump a crap ton of pesticide and fertilizer on produce and not get bigger produce. But the worst offenders is the organic industry. The definition of organic in the US allows for stuff that is definitely not anyone's idea of organic. This is because of the way the FDA/USDA has regulated the term. Organic simply refers to growing practices that don't use GM genetically engineered crops or specific classes of herbicides. Dasani water is just bottled tap water. Most bottled water is, really. In the UK they tried to release Dasani and news that it was just bottled tap spread quick. The release failed miserably. Despite that, and the revelation that most of the waters in the store are this way, other bottled water sells fine. UK My dad works for Hovis bread factory and a lot of the supermarket home brands are made by named brands. I believe Hovis used to make M&S bread. M&S has genuinely good quality stuff though. Dr. Martens makes boots for them just without a tag. Hydro Flask. You can get those bottles and branded straight from China for just a few dollars. Yeti is the same. I bought a tumbler on Amazon for $12, and one day I compared it to a co-worker's Yeti tumbler, and they were identical. The only difference we could find was his had Yeti stamped on it, and mine had nothing. Even the lid fit on his, actually fit better than the lid it came with. They were probably made in the same factory in China, just one got a stamp and thus cost 3x more. Printer paper. I used to work in a factory that cut the paper down to size. We would load up the packaging material for say staples, do our run of that, then switch packaging to the generic packaging without switching the bulk paper out. The plain white package holds literally the same as Staples brand, but the brand name is expensive. If we're talking plain generic printer copy paper, sure. Beyond that, there are significant differences in paper. Any designers that have worked in print and especially pressmen know this. I'll tell you one example it isn't. Aureus. I am an avid generic product user. I stay away from brand names where possible. But man, if Aureus only tastes like Aureus. Also, Pop-Tarts. I think an easy way to see this is when you see a product recall and it affects so many brands of the same item. Examples that I can think of include peanut butter and car airbags. Supermarket spices cost twice as much for a third of the amount when compared to packets in shops for ethnic minorities. I grew up black in a very South Asian community, so the idea of paying $2.50 for a tiny bottle of Schwartz when a full bag is $0.89. Just, no. A lot of people say cereal, but that's not always true. As someone who eats a lot of cereal, store brand of some types of cereal are of significantly lower quality. Not all, but some. Agreed. Store brand Cheerios are completely inedible. Canned vegetables. Often the only thing that changes in the production line is the label. Commodities can be this way. Soda can be this way. On the flip side, I feel outlet malls have items made just for the discount outlet lines of fashion. Games Workshop shade paints. They're basically just normal oil paints that is extremely thinned down, that is put into a pot and put the Citadel name on it for the brand name, so to justify its expensive price. You will have to pry that null oil from my cold, dead and poor hands. I used to work in a supermarket. Those Ferrero Raffaello coconut balls were freaking expensive. There were cheaper brands that literally tasted the same. Also, Mounds chocolate were more expensive than the Bounty. I don't know why, but they tasted the same to me. My supervisor always insisted on putting cheaper brands near the expensive ones. His logic: they are the same kind of product, so they should be found in the place. What would usually happen is people would take the cheaper brands and the expensive ones would just expire on the shelves. Raffaello is the one and only thing that one didn't get bad through years, and two, has no competition. Every chocolate or candy we loved during childhood is such a disappointment, but Raffaello, always the same ball of perfection. I have worked in a pawn shop for 7 years now. We test everything that comes in, so I have heard every kind of headphone and speaker imaginable. One day I went to test a pair of cheap on Bluetooth earbuds. They sounded better than Beats earbuds. At the next meeting I blindfolded 5 employees and had them listen to those same 2 sets, same song, same volume, same phone, everything. They all agreed that the second option, the on-set, sounded way better than the first set, the Beats. When the test was over they were astonished. Moral of the story is that brand name doesn't mean crap. Something cheaper that can do the same thing will come along and might actually kick butt. Moral of the story is that a brand name is just a logo on a sticker. At the end of the day, it just comes down to having a solid construction and liking the sound. Beats are a well-known joke in the audiophile community. Extremely expensive and horrendous quality. A lot of clothing. Most of it is made in the same sweatshops in China, Bangladesh, wherever. The only difference is the name on the label. Also, brands will make different quality stuff for sale in different stores. The Ralph Lauren clothes that sell at the high-end department store are not the same ones that you find at Marshall's, Kohl's, and Costco. Same at the outlets. Milk. I was in a Walmart looking at milk and an old man stopped me. He said he retired from the dairy industry. He told me the same milk plant, from the same cows, fills different colored cartons, from the same batch. He tapped his nose and winked and said, "It's all the same crap." The checkout lady did this for me. I was buying Prairie Farms, and she stopped me to let me know the store brand was owned by same company and filled at the same time. Since I'm QC chemist, I immediately switched to the cheaper. I know in our plant that means same material, different label. When I finally started making okay money, I had the great idea of shopping at nicer stores than Walmart. My family would always tell me I needed to shop at Fred Meyer, it's so much better quality items. I'm in the clothes section at Fred Meyer looking at socks and whatnot. I see a pack of Fruit of the Loom. $18.99, the exact same kind I was buying at Walmart for $8.99. Hanes $22, Walmart $12. I was in shock. Why would I shop here? It's the same crap just marked up. I'm not trying to hype a Walmart, I know they are a terrible company, but at least you're not getting charged $10 plus more for the same low quality stuff. They are probably getting the stuff from the exact same supplier at that. Be careful, though. No clue about clothing, but for electronics and tools Walmart has contracts where they can use the same nameplates of items sold in other stores yet have them specifically made with less quality to be cheaper for Walmart only. My grandfather owned a textiles company and he sold the exact same shirts to Walmart to be sold for less than $10 and to Polo to be sold for more than $60. Prairie Farms milk in the Midwest uses the same name brand milk when it produces Walmart's Great Value and Target brand milk. I'll just throw this in there, lube. If you use a lot of lube or would just rather never have to buy it again, then go search for a bottle of J-Lube or K-Lube. K-Lube is safest as it doesn't contain sugar which would give any would-be lubettes a gnarly yeast infection. Forget what its intended purpose is, getting your arms inside cows to help with delivery. This crap works. It comes in a moderate sized bottle of white powder. All you have to do is add water, sprinkle it on a toy, wet your hand and give the toy a once over and you're good to go. Dump a bunch in a cup or bottle and add some water. Stir the crap out of it and keep it on standby. Whatever you need. The more water you add the thinner it will be. The less water you add the thicker and stringier it'll be. If that matters to you. Heads up, this stuff is insane. If you're looking to have fun in the shower or bathtub, be very freaking careful. Whatever it gets on will be cartoonishly slippery. Ceramic very much included. It takes a bit of time to wash off. Water will do it just fine, it just takes a bit. But that also means you likely won't have to reapply. One bottle is like $50 Canadian and I can't see myself ever running out. I don't know how this lube tastes if that's a factor. I imagine terrible since taste has nothing to do with what it's meant for. Also, another pro tip, any numbing lube is crap and dangerous. I know this part has nothing to do with the original posted question, but while we're on the topic of lube I thought I'd throw it in. Pain is your body's way of telling you something is wrong. You can be tough and push through it, but that doesn't mean you're not hurting yourself, which might set you up for more injuries later. Numbing does not help this in the least. All it does is take away your body's ability to tell you that you're hurting it, and you might be hurting it a lot more than you realize. Any lube with a gimmick is not a great lube nor a good idea. Cooling, tingling, heating, glow in the dark, nanobots, etc. To reiterate, J-Lube for butt stuff. Dudes not ladies, just to be safe, and K-Lube for putting just about anything anywhere in anyone. HDMI cables were a huge offender of this back when they were first introduced. They found all sorts of ways to justify paying over $100 for 5 feet of cable. But in reality, it's not about quality, but about customer manipulation. Let's say you see 3 HDMI cables on the shelf. First one is just wound and zip-tied, marked $5. The second is $25, and it's in a nice paper box with some snazzy graphics on it. Third one is $120, has a thick box with dark maroon and gold graphics, looks ornate and fancy. The consumer is going to think, well, I don't want something that looks cheap and will probably break after a week of use, so they skip the $5 cable. But then they look at the $120 cable. They figure, aha, I'm no fool. I know a ripoff when I see it. This is all just fancy packaging, so they skip the $120 cable. They happily choose the $25 cable, believing they have outwitted those clever marketing folks at the HDMI cable factory, and returns home with their smart, sensible purchase thinking they won. But they haven't. The cables are all the same. They just spent $20 more for a simple paper box. They were tricked by the middle option product, deceived into thinking it has any justifiable value over the cheaper ones simply because it was placed next to an absurdly overpriced version. Fortunately, people have wised up to this practice, and thanks to user reviews on online retailers, it's much harder to pull this scam. But back in the mid-2000s, when HDMI cables first started rolling out, you had some pretty awful offenders out there, and even more unfortunate, a lot of I'm no fool consumers thinking they were seeing right through it. The thing is, and HDMI will work or wonk. Since it's digital it won't change the signal quality like in an analog cable. Don't cheapen on very long cables thought. Aldi's version of everything. But most importantly, the hula hoops, because if they are not from the same factory then I'm not British, and I am British. Girl Scout cookies. I have noticed that some grocery stores carry cookies with different names, maybe different shapes, but parallel to the Girl Scout cookies, from a green box of chocolate mint cookies to a yellow box of shortbread cookies with lemon icing. Probably the Girl Scout Mafia will come after me for this post. Back in the 90s I took a tour of a Frigidaire plant in NJ. I was told half the air conditioners in the country were produced there, with different brand names put on them. Sparkling water. Why is LaCroix so expensive? Liquor? Get that Kirkland signature vodka. It's apparently from the same factory as Grey Goose. Guys, Advil is just ibuprofen, that's 3x the price. Tylenol is just acetaminophen. Claritin is just loratadine. All name brand medicines are just generic medications with a brand name stamped on them to triple the price. I work for an eyeglass distributor. Almost all designer eyeglasses are made from just a handful of manufacturers that also make the no-name cheap ones. The only manufacturing difference between the $20 frames and lenses and the $1,000 ones is the label put on at the end. Luxottica rules them all. My sister worked in a place where they packed sliced ham and whatever kind of meat products. They'd have to change the stickers on the packaging every now and again, with a completely different brand etc. It was exactly the same food in the package, just a different sticker and barcode. Man, here I go. Guitars. Now hear me out on this one, all you shredders. I work at a guitar store that specializes in vintage Japanese guitars, mainly 60s 80s era. On top of this we do have some more high-end custom shop guitars on consignment. These Japanese guitars cost in the ballpark of $300 $800. To some people that might be a beginner guitar and to others that might be a perfect price range, but the quality you receive for that price absolutely rivals guitars that sit even in the above $1K range. These guitars look wacky and interesting, but have really substantial build quality and they sound great. I own 3 Japanese guitars that span the 60s 70s range, and while you can't sweep pick on them, I've put all 3 through a heck during my shows and not a single one has freaked out on me. My favorite shape of all time is a good old Les Paul. However, in more recent times, I believe, and so do thousands of others, the quality control of Gibson, the leading Les Paul manufacturer, just isn't there anymore. I think they've made bad business decisions and overall have lost focus on their instruments. Their guitars sit roughly between $1,800 for 000 and that's a more budget instrument all the way up to their high-end custom shop. I own a 70s Japanese Les Paul and a high-end Epiphone Les Paul. The total combined cost of the two would be around $1,300, substantially lower than the price of a Gibson. However, both of them play exactly the same, if not better. To really summarize, fantasizing about being a big rock star with a $3,000 guitar isn't the way, because you can 100% find something that is exactly the same for not even a third of the price. You just have to really look hard. It might even take you years, but it's not all about those big name brand. There's people out there make killer guitars, and they're not always big factory employees. Candles. I used to work at a candle factory that made brand name candles and generic. Only difference was the label. Same wax, same wick, same jar, half price. A lot of makeup and skincare. They're owned by the same umbrella companies and are created in the same labs. Mostly the main difference is in terms of packaging. 180 plus brands are owned by just 7 companies. Estee Lauder companies, L'Oreal, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Shiseido, Johnson & Johnson, and Coty. From what I understand, they are created in the same labs but don't typically have the same formula. I don't think most brands, indie or high-end, would be okay with that. Trader Joe's branded herbal teas are made and packaged by Celestial Seasonings. Source: took a tour of their facility in Boulder a year or two ago. Watched Trader Joe boxes going down the assembly line, which was also explained to us by the tour guide. Also, Europeans get more herbal tea bags because you don't mess with Europeans and their tea. Looking at you, England, so they stack them vertically instead of laying them flat like most Celestial boxes are. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.